Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending the session. I guess, do you want to jump to the next slide then and we'll get started?
Sure.
So, hi. Yeah, my name's Gary Janikowski. I'm a senior consulting sales director at Mythics, which I'll talk a little bit on the next slide. I'm sure many of you have heard of SpearMC, but I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Mythics unless you are a customer who gets your licensing and product from Mythics. You buy your familiar with them, but they acquired us earlier this year. So you'll see SpearMC, part of Mythics. You may hear us refer to both. But yeah, I'm a senior consulting sales director there at Mythics, and I've been doing PeopleSoft and Oracle BI and related technologies for over 25 years now. So it's a lot of experience and a lot of great knowledge I can provide specifically around reporting, analytics, and PeopleSoft.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gary. And very good morning and good afternoon if you're in Eastern time. All of you who have just joined, and hope you all have been having a great conference so far. And this session is coming from the combined organization of SpearMC and Mythics, along with Smart ERP, entirely Oracle-focused organizations. And as part of the HCM Spotlight session, we're glad to be talking about the delivered insights and visualizations and great features in HCM on using the underlying technology features. So we'll go through that in detail, both myself and Gary. And I'm Logesh Balasubramaniam, based in Raleigh, North Carolina. And along with Gary, I'm part of the consulting sales team at the Mythics organization. And looking forward to a great session today.
All right, so we thought we'd put this slide up here. Like I mentioned, we're now part of Mythics, and Mythics, again, primarily was focused on licensing. And Logesh also mentioned that Smart ERP was acquired this past year as well. So for those of you that are not familiar with Smart ERP, they were also another trusted Oracle partner, and as well as SpearMC. So now Mythics has both really the licensing and product sales side, along with a really strong services side. So in addition to PeopleSoft and other on-premise apps, we have capabilities now within the SaaS space and really within the OCI space as well. So from a technology perspective, more than just application focused. We provide end-to-end solutions in the full stack. So enough on kind of the overall background of Mythics and SpearMC and the history there, but let's focus a little bit on the products and services that we offer. So 5 kind of main areas: managed services, PeopleSoft expertise, training, products, and cloud. So from a managed services perspective, that's functional and technical managed services. Our expertise within PeopleSoft itself, deep across all pillars, and we've also included EPM down there as well, like more from a period that's not necessarily a PeopleSoft product, but you might tying in data from there. PeopleSoft training, that is where we got started. I imagine that a lot of you have either taken a class from SpearMC, possibly purchased our All Access Learning Pass, and that is just an area that, again, we started in as a company and built out from there. And we're really excited about our latest addition to the training stack here of our PeopleSoft Learning Assistant, which is, sort of AI-driven assistant that sits on top of our All Access Learning Pass. And we've been starting to roll that out to some pilot users and looking forward to having that available to everybody. So lots more great things to come there. We have some. Oh, sorry, Logesh, go back one more. I just want to hit the last 2. The products again. A lot of if there's custom solutions that we've built, and some of those are available to be. If there's a particular need there, I think a really good one there too is the OGL starter kit. So if anyone has seen Cameron's presentation on OGL, that's another area. And you could probably look that presentation up. I think he delivered it yesterday if anyone didn't attend it and is interested. And then finally, the cloud stuff. We'll skip on that. But yes, the cloud infrastructure, I think from an on-premise PeopleSoft perspective is a area of focus now. Okay, now we're good, I guess. Yep, and this is just a scan if anybody wants to learn more about our training, upcoming public training courses.
Absolutely. And just to add here, when it comes to training, this is typically a busy season in terms of training classes and courses. So towards the end of this slide deck, we have highlighted what are the upcoming training classes that's already on our calendar scheduled, which you can check out and check out the QR code here, scan, go to our website and register as well, because these are classes for public registration. Typically, we have November, January, February period are really busy. December is relatively slow when it comes to training. So we have classes scheduled to address all those demands. If anyone is interested specifically on training, please do check out the registration options as well.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing on that. If there's ever a training that you're looking for and you don't see it, you can always email me. I actually do a lot of the coordination of all of our public training and determining what's going to go on the calendar and when. So that's a definitely area that I can help with and get that into the right people and make decisions on that. All right. So the agenda today, I'm going to talk a little bit about open search dashboards, a little overview and history of how all of this came together from a technology perspective and how that sort of embeds within PeopleSoft. And then Logesh is going to take the rest of the presentation, get into the delivered HCM dashboards, talk some about the Insights catalog feature, and then he'll actually do a demo of some of the dashboards and talk about use cases and how you guys can roll these out. So I think let's get started. All right, so open search dashboards. These actually, I'll take a step back on that. You may have heard of Kibana a couple years ago, or Elasticsearch, and that was the technology for search that was built underneath PeopleSoft in versions 8.5.9 and older. So in 8.6.0, they switched from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch, and from Kibana to OpenSearch dashboards. And in 8.6.0, you could do either or. 8.6.1 plus, it's now just OpenSearch. So from a history perspective, that's kind of the naming, and you may have heard some of those names, been familiar with them, but essentially the product really operates the same. Not too many changes, especially from the end user perspective. But what Kibana, their code line that was available, their latest code line in 8.5.9, 8.6.0, that was the beginning code line for OpenSearch. So essentially, they took all that open source code, moved it, and utilized that as OpenSearch. All right, I think we can go on to the next slide. So this is a great slide, and I started going through this, and I put some slides together over the years. I actually wrote our Kibana training class, our original one, and then converted it to OpenSearch. And I never had this slide, but wow, I mean, I think this really shows the picture really well. I mean, I had slides that similarly did this, but if you think about on the top upper left side here, you're in PeopleSoft, so that box on the left, you have a query and you have data that exists in your PeopleSoft database. When you want to use that data set in a search definition, you use search framework to basically call that query, determine all the fields that you want to use, and then you actually build that search definition. So once you build a search definition, it then becomes a search index over in OpenSearch, right? So it's actually creating this data set in OpenSearch. Once you have a data set in OpenSearch, and I'm on the right side there with the green box, once you have data in there, you can then use OpenSearch dashboards, which is the bottom one there, to read that data. And you're not using data from there now from the purpose of search. When you use OpenSearch dashboards, you're actually using it to create visualizations and dashboards. So the data goes into what's called an index pattern, and that's your data set. So if you want to then build any type of visualization, and there's 16 or 18 different types of visualizations available. You create these, and you create maybe multiple of them, then you put them on a dashboard, right? And that's your grouping of visualizations that your customer would see as a dashboard. So once all that data is there, it exists in OpenSearch, but PeopleSoft is not aware of it. So you can see it's kind of its own separate box. So then you run a process, and or you run, actually it's just a few steps really of importing it, and then configuring, securing, and then redeploying it. And once you have it there, then you determine how it's going to be used, right? So there's a bunch of steps that happen. But what we're talking about today is not necessarily how do we build these search definitions and dashboards from scratch. What we're talking about focusing on is all the work that Oracle has done and provided you in these delivered dashboards. So the all of this stuff here is happening, and you could go and build these on your own. But on the next slide, you'll see Oracle is actually delivering all of that. So Lukesh, if you go on over to the next slide.
Absolutely, Gary. And a couple of things before I move over, Gary.
Oh yeah.
One is the image courtesy of this goes to the People Tools Director, Sasank. I think I had a wording in there maybe that went behind the image itself. There is a reference to the blog from the People Tool Strategy team on this transition from Kibana to OpenSearch, and also in general, a lot more information about the insights capability within the PeopleSoft application. So reference link is there. That's the source of this information. That's one item. And the second is a couple of things I want to call out here. As Gary was explaining in terms of how this whole architecture sits together, this the purpose of this is also to address some of the common questions that we get. One is the visualizations that we are going to see in the demo. All of that visualization is not happening out of the core transactional tables in the application. So the load of reporting, visualization, etc., is not happening on the actual core tables where the data is being actively managed. So the everything that you see on the right hand side is basically the data that is taken out of PeopleSoft database and indexed for the purpose of search and visualization. So that's one common question we get about from load and load aspect. The other is the entire the thing that we see on the right hand side, OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboard, all the technology aspects associated with it, the software, etc. Everything is part of the People Tools package. One, it's free of charge. Another, the versions and all the dependencies of it, your technical team don't have to go anywhere else to find it. It's all packaged as part of People Tools deployment packages and installed. So there is one source as part of People Tools. You get all of this. And this data doesn't go out of your network or your servers as well. OpenSearch, the things that you see on the right-hand side, though it is separate from the PeopleSoft database, it's still part of your network, your servers, everything stays there. So these are the three common things that we get when customers want to deploy and use it. Where the data resides, is it impacting the real transaction tables? Where is the software certified, etc. But all of this is packaged as part of the People Tools application. So just wanted to add that there before we move out of the slide. Yeah, please go ahead, Gary.
All right. So thanks. I guess, yeah, those were actually great points that I probably skipped or kind of left as assumptive. But yeah, those are important things because people do always ask, is there an extra charge for this? No, it is included with People Tools. All right. So here we're looking at the OpenSearch dashboard deployment. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, Oracle, the way this is built and delivered, a lot of the work is done. So you don't have to build your data source, your query. You don't have to create the search definition. You do have to run a process, and that's the red box. And I'm kind of go through this, and I'll dig back in a little further here in a second. And then creating the visualizations and dashboards, that was the box on the right where you're actually building the visualizations, putting them on a dashboard. Then the administration part of it, that's importing and configuring. Again, if you're using the dashboards and that have been delivered with the PUMs, you only have to do intervention on the items that are in the red box. So deploy search definition, search category, build search index. The indexes exist in search administration. You just have to go in, check. Once you determine um, which dashboards you want to use, then you'll have to make sure that the data set, the search definition has been run, right? So you have to deploy that and then you run that index. And that's what actually creates the index file with all the data and populates it. And then um, at that point, you would be able to view your dashboard in OpenSearch, but in PeopleSoft, you wouldn't see it until you actually specify who can see that dashboard, and then you have to deploy the dashboard. And the specify user privileges, they're going to deliver with every one of these dashboards, usually one or two roles that give you access to that dashboard. Depending on most customers, I think they have a custom security model, so they end up adding basically the same security rights to their custom roles that would have been available if you just use the delivered role. But that's just a personal preference for each organization. But I do find that a lot of people don't want to use the delivered roles. They have their own process in how they administer security. So that's a little extra step, but it's very minor. And again, Oracle has delivered everything in the palm, very minimal interaction from the customer/end user here. And once they're deployed, you'll actually get to see what Logesh is going to go through on the next few slides, as well as the demo.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gary.
Yep.
And so we just wanted to slightly switch track to be specific to HCM dashboards. And the reason I say that is the people tools aspect of the application provides the underlying technology framework for any of the PeopleSoft pillars to be able to make use of the rich data visualization insight capability available as part of the OpenSearch product. However, each pillar, like the HCM pillar, FSCM pillar, and other pillars, students pillar, etc., have the product strategy teams on the individual product pillars have then adopted this frameworks to create data visualizations for the individual modules as part of that pillar. And as this session is part of the HCM track, HCM Spotlight session, we wanted to have the remainder of the session focused on the HCM side of things. And pretty much the depth and comprehensiveness of visualizations that we'll see on the HCM side is also available, for example, on the financials and supply chain side as well. So we will not be touching upon those things, but rest assured there is a wealth of dashboards delivered as part of the other product pillars as well. Now, here is a quick sort of, I wouldn't say cheat sheet, more of a summary document of all the delivered dashboards that are available in the HCM application. Now, there are two different terminologies that you might have noticed in the previous slides. There is a dashboard and there is visualization. So visualizations are individual like charts that we create in an Excel document, but much more richer data insights that are available as part of a visualization. When we group together multiple visualizations on a particular data set, then we create a dashboard out of that. So what we are seeing here are like individual dashboards that are available in the HCM application, broken down by different modules. Within each of these dashboards, there are multiple visualizations. So when I was checking the counts earlier, like sometime last year, there are over 15 different dashboards and probably over 75, 80, or even right now, it may be even close to 100 in terms of individual visualization. So that's how elaborate the capability delivered out of the box is. And one of the things that we constantly get when we demo this functionality to customers is the amount of upfront work that has already been done by Oracle to get to a point where it's pretty much plug and play when it comes to deploying these dashboards and visualization. There is a significantly less work that is needed on the customer side when it comes to deploying this. So this is something constantly we hear as a feedback. So that's what we'll be going through in terms of the demo. But before I get into the demo, a couple of things I want to call out here. The dashboard functionalities and the insights have been around for a while now, many years now. And if we look at the snapshot on the right hand side, the very first dashboard starting with the HR module came up in starting version 34, which is the latest version of HCM images. We're close to 53 now, meaning it's been more than 20 images over 5 to 6 years ago. The first dashboards were released. And when these dashboards were originally released, they started with Kibana as a software, but all these dashboards have seamlessly transitioned to open search. So essentially, they're technology agnostic, meaning the dashboard functionality that was released earlier is exactly the same. It's just the underlying technology that is different, that is powering these visualizations. And starting the image 34, pretty much every single image, there are new functionalities released, new dashboards as part of different modules. So one on the right-hand side is the ones that came out earlier from 34 to image 42, 44 onwards. And one on the left side are the recent dashboards that have been released into specific functionalities in the HCM application, like approval insights, that covers approvals across all the modules, then onboarding insights, remote worker, etc. So all these are more recent, image 45 upwards up until the recent images. So this list gets updated every image, every few months when a new image gets released. We try to keep this up to date. All right. With that said, let's get into another relatively newer feature when it comes to insights and visualization capability is what is called as an insights catalog, which is like a single portal or a gateway into consolidating all the different dashboards and visualizations that's been delivered within the application. Now, though it's very simple, it's been really powerful and useful to our customers who have already started using this functionality, where earlier, we saw in the previous slide that there are number of visualizations released that are module specific, and the way to get to those insights were specific to every module as well. Like depending upon whether the insight is a manager insights or whether it is for administrative users, they get embedded as part of a work center or as part of different homepage dashboards, etc. So if we have to go and show the insights, all the insights that are part of the application, there is probably 20 different places that we need to go and access them. What this insights catalog does is basically brings all of that into a single place, and it's configurable. So the customer gets to configure the order, the sequence in which it needs to be accessed. So when we click the tile to go into the Insights catalog, on the left-hand side, we can see all the folders, which is basically kind of modules. And within each module, whatever insights are delivered are all grouped in one place. And when we click or select a particular insight dashboard, then on the right-hand side, we see the dashboard within that window itself. Extremely useful functionality. And using the underlying framework of nav collections, it is automatically security controlled in a sense that when we deploy certain dashboards, users would only see the dashboards on the left-hand side to which they have security access. So if it could be one particular insights catalog will, based on user security, will be able to show what dashboards they have access to. We don't have to control it through any additional means, so it becomes a very handy tool as well. As we start any new customers trying to deploy this, I would highly recommend this. I think this came out in one of the recent images as well. I remember it was 48 or 49, so relatively newer. And this could be selectively adopted as well if anyone who's already using Insights is interested in this Insight Catalog Nav collection. All right, with that said, let's get into the demo itself. And for the demo, I wanted to actually use a live demo environment for this purpose. Let's get into that. I'll also use this opportunity to see if there are any questions. Also comment if you have any questions so far in terms of the overview and background context. Please do post and we'll review the chat window to see if we have to address any. Now, for the second half of the session, we want to focus on what is actually delivered in the application, and consider the demo as like more along the lines of art of possible, right? This is what is delivered out of the box, and what are some of the rationale behind those insight dashboards and how to use them is what we will be covering, and also share experiences in terms of any lessons learned from customers where we have deployed, etc. as well. All right. So with that, I think for this demo, I will basically start with the Insights catalog because it makes our jobs easier in terms of getting to access all the delivered dashboards in one place rather than navigating to many different places. As you can see here, I'm using a PUM image version 52, one just behind the latest one that was released a couple of weeks ago, and it uses open search dashboards. That's the underlying technology powering it. Let me make this a little bit bigger. All right, and I have already personalized this Insights Catalog collection to order it based on the modules that are more widely used. So what dashboards, what order we want to show, display, accessible is all controllable by user. So I'm starting with the HR dashboard in this case. And as I mentioned, as you select a particular dashboard, it opens up on the right-hand side. And given this is the first dashboard, that's the default landing page for me. So I get in to this dashboard here. And pretty much all the dashboard follows a very similar layout. And from a layout standpoint, you can see here there is a search option up top. I've done some previous searches and the searches appear in here. And outside the search, there is a date a function here that basically shows the various time period options you want to review your data. And the very important aspect, and as part of deployment, this is one aspect that we have very early conversations with our customers. Like when it comes to these delivered dashboards visualization, how much data you want to deploy onto your search server for both search and visualization purpose. So if the organization has been using PeopleSoft relatively recently, 5-10 years, then you could decide to deploy all the data, right? Because all of that information could be useful for your dashboards. But if the organization has been running PeopleSoft for 30 years, 25 years, or even longer, in that sense, then you can make a choice of how much data you want to deploy from your search and indexing point of view, because all the amount of volume of data directly is proportional to the performance of your insights as well. How much data it needs to index, how much it needs to use for visualization, etc. So that's typically an implementation consideration when it comes to the volume of data you want to deploy, or sorry, the time period of the data you want to deploy. And we break it down when we work with customers to go through the deployment process. So we want to sort of break it down depending upon each of this dashboard, the amount of data that it uses, and varies depending upon the underlying business process. For example, when it comes to your workforce data, we are essentially going to be visualizing the demography of your data, right? Like what departments, what locations, what's their age, what's their ethnicity, those kind of information. And the overall amount of data is, I would say, relatively small to medium in terms of volume compared to, let's say, you are deploying a dashboard for a payroll module or a time and labor module where you are deploying transactional data that is typically tends to be high in volume. So you get to not just decide what time period, your time period for the data you want to index and visualize could be different for different kinds of dashboards as well. But those are all the implementation considerations when it comes to choosing what is that you want to deploy and use. But the very good aspect is the underlying queries and the visualizations are given for without that time period filter. You get to add how much ever you want to deploy and use, and the system doesn't restrict you if you decide to deploy a large amount of data as well. Okay. So in this, once you have deployed, in this case, looks like there is data from a really long period, you get to then choose what's the default period that you want to look at. In this case, it starts with 5 years, but let's say most often you would be looking at maybe last 2 years worth of data when it comes to different dashboards. And so at the top, going back to our layout discussion, there is the time period option, there is a search option, and then comes a very important thing, which is the filters option, where your dashboards are very dynamic in terms of applying and narrowing down different filters. I already see there is an employee filter, so let me say I want to remove that. So you would have noticed this count went up, so it now includes both employees and non-employees as well, and I get to choose what filters I want to have. And technically, any data field that is part of that particular underlying search definition, like I will say search, like the visualization definition, can be added as a filter. So in this case, it starts right now, it shows a long list of fields that are available for this particular dashboard. One thing to remember is the list of data fields available for filter is going to be dashboard specific. You can only filter on data that is part of the dashboard. So since this is HR dashboard, I get to see all the fields that are employee, personal data, job data, related data fields in here. So if you go to payroll dashboard, then you would see the filter options are going to be different. So that's going to be the basic layout you would see commonly across all the dashboards. Now, getting into the next layer, which is the individual visualization. So this is each box here is what we consider as different visualization. And there is a wide range. I think I remember Gary mentioning 15 or so, and it's continuing to evolve as well. Wide range of visualization options available, like the donut model, the gauge model, the pie charts, all anything that you can imagine these days are available in terms of different visualization. And the product teams have done a great job in terms of using different visualizations that are applicable for different product areas, done an amazing job in terms of showing a wide range of, once again, possibilities. Customers can use these visualizations as is, or if they want to create new, they have the tool set to do so as well. So in this example, let's say I'm looking at a particular, a very simple visualization here, employees by department. And let's say I click on it and I can immediately drill down. You can see that the human resources filter, department filter got added. So I get to drill down and view this information. I can also choose any visualization and sort of deep dive into that particular set of visualization. Now within this, let's say I'm looking within the HR, I already have applied the HR filter here. So I'm seeing for HR department, and then I can then go and do individual filters as well. Add either search or do different filters. I have those capabilities to do those activities as well. Now, sometimes we might end up in a situation where, let me go back to this, or I might have like functions. For example, there is a department called sales. There could be other departments that do sales functions but have slightly different names as well. So I could just do search for sales. It's then gonna narrow down into sales. Any department that has sales as a word in it is now part of my visualization. I can see that the visualization numbers, etc., all got adjusted, and now it's purely focused on sales related functions. So it can be filters that are direct fields, or it could be search functionality that narrows things down, various options to dive deep into your data. Now let me go back and minimize. And any individual data that we see on the visualization is also downloadable. So I can look at one particular data and choose the inspect option, and I can download that information as a CSV file. Here is depending upon what data you're looking, sometimes the download is going to be very useful because you get raw data that you can work on, or if it is summary information, then the download may not be as useful. So that could vary as well. So let me remove this just continuous. Last 2 years if I go and try to download this one, I'm going to get a summary count by departments if I need that information. All right. So few items in here that I wanted to call out in terms of usabilities and features. Any questions? I want to see if there are anything on our chat window before I move forward. I don't see any questions, so feel free to add any questions if you have any. If not, we'll address any other questions during time at the end as well. All right. Now, what I wanted to do is the fundamental usage aspects of the dashboards are consistent across all the dashboards. So any dashboard that we go is going to follow the same format in terms of the layout, how it is used, etc. And the content of it is going to vary by area, and the choice of visualization is different by different area, as we can see here. Different kinds of charts, the map functionality, how the map is overlaid with data. And here is an example of the raw data that I showed. There is a visualization that basically brings in a report format, a set of data, and that can be downloaded in a raw form or a formatted form into an Excel document as well, and can be used for any other purpose in terms of if there is any more detailed deep dive that is needed, the data can be used there. Now, while that is loading, it's loaded, so let me cover that. You can see it's a simple CSV format data. Now, couple of other items I wanted to call out here is when it comes to the delivered dashboards, there are different kinds of dashboards that are available, and the dashboards vary in usage, and by the usage it also determines who would be the right audience for the dashboards, right? What I mean by that is some dashboards, by nature of their data, are more operational. It would be of great value to the administrative users who run day-to-day tasks within the department. And some dashboards, based on the data it provides, is more strategic, more long-term information that would be ideal for the leadership users to be reviewing it, and not of great value to the day-to-day operational functions, right? So there is operational dashboards, there is strategic dashboards, and dashboards that could also in between, like to your mid-level managers, depending upon the tasks they do. So there are dashboards depending upon the data determines who would be the right audience for deployment. This is another aspect that we work with our customers as part of deployment. One is the technical nature of configuring and deploying and giving security to the users, but the other is making a conscious decision around who these dashboards are meant to be, who would make um, the purpose of it and where it made best use, right? So those are the conversations to be had and design decisions to be made as part of the deployment. So these two examples, right? Workforce compensation, workforce equity would fall under more of the administrative dashboards for the HR department. So HR leadership, HR mid-level managers would all be the core audience for the composition and equity related information. Now, let me extend the next one, which is the payroll for North America. Most customers who use HR are also using payroll for North America. So these are the two widely used module in US. So if we look at the payroll module, it is broken down into US specific visualizations, dashboards, and Canada payroll dashboards. If you are a customer outside of North America, there is a global payroll folder, separate module, and separate insights as well. But they all follow similar patterns and similar functions. The underlying data source is different. That's the reason they are different dashboards on their own right. So let's look at, for this purpose of this demo, we'll look at the payroll ones that are focused in the US payroll module. And as we can see here, there are 4 or 5 different delivered dashboards for payroll, and starting with the cost insights. So cost insights, let me wait for it. Just give me 1 second. Okay, spinning. All right. So in the payroll cost insight dashboard, you can see that this is more of a payroll function, payroll department specific dashboard that is addressing the needs from a trend point of view. Though it is not necessarily a trend, it is focusing on the cost over a short to medium time frame is the purpose of this particular dashboard that then breaks down into the how the cost is broken down into different earnings, different deductions, different taxes categories, etc. And you can see the level of rich visualization options that are available within each category. And I think this one, once again, instead of last 15 years, it's showing the data worth of last 2 years. And as I mentioned, this is an example of data decision that needs to be made as part of deployment where how long or how far you want to go back in terms of data for these kinds of insights like the cost insights, typically few years. Sometimes it could be based on the data retention period, maybe 7 years, very hardly going back to 10 or 15 years, right? So those are some of the things to consider. Now, I think the payroll trend insights is the other one, which is more strategic in nature in terms of how the payroll costs have been trending over a longer period of time. Let's see if it has any data in here. Very limited data. So let's look at it's only for last 6 months. So all right. And one other aspect I want to highlight here is this is applicable for all dashboard, not just payroll dashboard. Given the data source for all of these visualizations that we are seeing here is PeopleSoft query based. Pretty much the end-to-end process around starting with the queries all the way to search definitions, deployment, etc. Each layer is configurable, entirely configuration driven. Very rarely we had to, for deploying and using the delivered dashboards, very rarely we had to get into any technical development. But there have been some instances where we work with customers to modifying the underlying query to either limit what sort of information is getting sent for visualization purposes, or very rarely we had to do a change behind the query, which is the views that are used in the queries if it had to be modified. There have been a couple of occasions, different individual requirements which needed that, but I would say those are very rare occasions. Most often, all these delivered dashboards work out of the box for if you're using the standard delivered functions. One of the common questions that we get all the time is what if we have customizations, right? If the customizations in the application are more on the usability and the visual aspects around it, you had made changes to the pages, etc., then of course there is literally no impact to what you're reporting out in terms of dashboards. But if you have customizations, then let's say that are data structure related, you have added a custom field to your uh, position data table or job data table, and you want as the particular field to be part of your reporting in the position management dashboard, then obviously all the layers that are part of the diagram that Gary walked through earlier, starting with the views, queries, search definitions, everything can be updated to bring in that custom information, right? So that's one of the common things that we get. How do we incorporate custom information into the delivered dashboard? So it will pretty much have to touch all the areas as part of this process. All right. So moving away from the payroll one, as we can see here, there are various other modules. Pretty much all the modules now in HCM application comes with delivered dashboards. And depending upon the modules you use, you can pick and choose what dashboards you want to deploy and use. And when it comes to within the modules itself, depending upon the usage of the module, for example, within the benefits as a function, if you're only using base benefits, then there are the benefits utilization gives you the data that is specifically based benefits information. But if you are using a module like Ben Admin, then there are additional dashboards like Ben Admin Processing Insights, which is more of operational dashboard showing where things are from an automated processing point of view. Life events, open enrollment, which are seasonal periodic information as well. So it's not just you have to pick and choose dashboards that are for specific modules all at once, not necessary. Depending upon what functions that you use within the module, you can pick and choose what is that you want to use. All right. I'll take a quick pause to see if there are any questions here. Not really. I don't think any questions have come through. Feel free to add any questions. If not, we'll address them towards the end of the session as well. All right. So I think the core aspects that we wanted to touch base here is what is common across all modules and the commonly used modules, what is available out of the box. So I'll do a quick time check. We have another 10 minutes, and if there aren't any specific question to address, I wanted to quickly run down. Will not have enough time to deep dive into every single visualization, but a quick rundown of the delivered dashboards that are available. So for Ben Admin, we can see there is a processing insights one that is more on the administrative operational side of things. But the benefit utilization is an example of a strategic dashboard that is more leadership focused. So the HR org benefits org would be more keen on how the benefit plans are being utilized, what's getting utilized more, what's getting utilized less. So we have insights like employee enrollments by plan category, employees who have enrolled versus waived, what plans have what kind of dependence coverage, etc. So these are more strategic in value in terms of determining what plans are more popular, what's getting less interest, and an insight like this, which is like multi-layered, as you can see here, under employees by panel, goes multi-level in terms of the activities that you can do, information that you can do within that. So I filtered by a specific plan type, which is medical. Once I do that, I can see that earlier the information was by plan type. Now the breakdown is by plan. So the way to visualize this is the inner ring is the plan type information, and the outer ring is the individual plans within the plan type. So this is a two-layer donut chart. So some of these modules have very comprehensive, rich visualizations like this that is extremely useful for the benefit leadership to review. All right, so we'll look at what do we have on the performance side. So for the performance management module, we have two different kinds of insights and for two different user groups as well. So what I mean by that is we have document insights, which is more operational in nature, meaning where in the performance process are the documents. Looks like there isn't any data in the last 1 year. So let me go back maybe to last 5 years. Yep, more data now. So if you look at here, it basically highlights where in the performance process the documents are. So this is more operational in nature. So through the performance cycle, administrators can follow up and see where information is getting stuck. And for example, only 43% has completed, rest are in progress. And then they can drill down into the groups that where evaluation is in progress, and then add filters like which department, which business unit is lagging behind, and have um, uh, focused communication, narrow down communication with that group specifically. So that's more operational. And then there is the performance insights, which is essentially uh, insights into how the employees have fared in terms of their performance rating. Looks like no doc info here. Let me see if there is any team performance ratings. Now, within the performance module, there's an example. This is a module where the insights are delivered for both administrators and also managers. So the team performance insights are insights that have been delivered specifically for um, manager users. So the earlier modules that we saw, benefits or payroll, are more sort of back-end functions where payroll is entirely governed by the payroll team and benefits is also benefits team. There is no role for a manager in that function. However, when it comes to performance management, managers, supervisors play a great deal of role in the process. So there are delivered dashboards that are focused on that are applicable to managers. So you could pick and choose what is that you want to deploy for managers, line managers basically, and what should be applicable for administrators. The key difference here is the team documents and team any manager specific dashboards have inbuilt the reports to hierarchy security built in, meaning when a manager goes to this dashboard, every manager is only going to see the data for the team reporting to them, right? So that's the major difference in terms of usage between an administrative dashboard versus a manager dashboard. Because this is sensitive information, you don't want sort of an open for all kind of security. So this anywhere you see team insights are built for managers. So that's something important to keep in mind. All right. Sounds good. I see some questions coming through, and I also see Gary responding as well. Oops, sorry. All right. Let me see. Given that we are into the last few minutes, we'll see if there are any specific questions we need to address there. All right. Do you have to control data results within a query definition, or can data and visualization be controlled by row-level security, for example? I think, please go ahead, Gary. I think.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think within the query, you have query level security. So, that security will control what you can see or what data is available for your particular user ID. And um, if you look at a search definition delivered, it starts with a query and then it typically uses a connected query, which then applies the row level security to that. And that is something then that you can turn off and on in the search definition as well. So you say no security, and then it would ignore that. Well, actually, I take that back. If you don't have access to the data, you're not going to be able to get past that regardless, right? So there's security sort of embedded throughout everywhere. So that again, that's a safeguard so that you're not sharing private information. But whatever access you have within the query is kind of the initial showstopper. But there are other places along the way that you can apply other security rules as well. Does that answer your question?
Hopefully, yes. I think that's definitely has confirmed. Thank you. All right. So just doing a quick time check here. I think we're into the last 5 minutes. The Going back to the comment that Gary made, just another item to highlight there is if we expand into the various other module specific dashboards, I would say the initial set of dashboards that were delivered were more administrative users focused. So majority of them had was based on row level security, meaning they have administrative users have access to a wide range of data that is controlled by their row level security. Typically in HCM, that is controlled by department security tree for most organizations. But as part of this module specific dashboards, we are getting to see now more the manager specific dashboards as well, like team documents, team performance insights, etc. That follows a slightly different security model, which is more the reporting relationship based security in HCM. So I'm expecting that it's going to be more as we progress, more self-service focused dashboards going to come out. Like performance one is as each module, the administrative dashboards gets mature, it's more and more self-service dashboards that's going to come out. So that's something to keep an eye on. Now, as part of our implementation, typically, very rarely we see any major security related changes as long as the organization is using the delivered security models, either row security, manager level security, etc. There aren't any significant customizations there. It should be pretty straightforward. Any reporting level insights would work based on both position reports to data or supervisor based reports to data. As long as one of the delivered models, I think those are covered as part of the way dashboards are being built. But if there are any customizations to that, is when things could get challenging. All right. Okay. All right. With that, I think I'll go back to our slide deck as we get into the last few minutes, and wanted to quickly provide some additional information here in terms of references. Dashboards is a very active space when it comes to the PeopleSoft product team, both people tools and the individual application modules. The PeopleSoft Insights page, PeopleSoft Info portal, specifically within that, the Insights page is up to date. There is a lot of detailed information out there in terms of how it works, everything new that is getting released, etc. And then there is even the delivered people books links here that I have provided, provides a lot of detailed information about to deploy a particular dashboard. What are the dependent aspects? Like, for example, what is the search definition underlying each dashboard? What's the role that is delivered for each dashboard? So you could easily link those things and deploy them, at least get the delivered version up and running with fairly less effort. So there is quite a lot of information out there. And there is a links to the blogs about PeopleSoft Insights from the Oracle team. Once again, rich information. The visuals that we saw earlier are from those blogs as well, which is provides a very easy way to visually explain the process. So there's quite a lot of information out there, and there is a very detailed sort of a go-to page on Oracle support for everything PeopleSoft Insights related. This is very handy for the technical users like system administrators who are especially transitioning from Kibana to OpenSearch and need more information about versions and what versions to use and what are the dependencies and all those things. There's a lot of information out there answered in terms of questions, links to download them, etc. So this reference information is very useful, especially if you are new to this and want to dip your feet in it. Okay. With that said, we're almost on time. I'll wrap it up. Any questions at the last minute we need to answer before wrap up? I don't see anything in here. All right. If there isn't anything else, thank you very much for all of your time, and